Rabasa, a political science operation, specialized in international security, and especially issues relating to terrorism and insurgency. And before that, I was a member of the United States Foreign Service. I was a co-author of a book with Steve Larrabee, who I'm sure called Islam, that has to do with the AKP, coming to policies. I have communications about Somalia, about station. There is a book coming out on terrorism in Corp. So it's, broad international security issues, but also more specific.
Yes.
I was in the State Department, Turkish. I think that we can to the problem of terrorism in the, in the Middle East, because you find terrorist attacks in Asia, in Africa, in Europe. It's a global phenomenon, but I think before we offer solutions, we need to understand it's a type group with different to obtain political outcomes. Of course, groups like in the United States, there are Basque terrorists in France. There is a right-wing terrorist in Northern Europe, and they all violent, and that's what they have in common, but very different logical persuasions. And the terrorism is meant to advance a particular agenda. Now, when you think of the type of terrorism that is by groups with an Islamist ideology, the terrorism that we see here is a manifestation of some very deep within the Muslim, and I would like to point out that the majority of this particular terrorists, of particular type of terrorists, are Muslims, because sometimes the West see as the primary victims, but we are not. Far more had been killed by radical Islamist terrorists than people of other religions. And something that needs to be kept in mind. This terrorist of an ideological conflict with Muslims. It's and this is a divide on the vast majority who are, I'd like to use the word moderate, Muslims, people who practice their religion in a traditional way, done this for centuries. You have a small but a very sector of who are motivated by ideologies. Objective is that is on the of people in Muslim majority countries. Now, you see this group things for or adherence to ideology, like destroying religious elements in places like Africa. We see that taken over of Timbuktu had been systematically destroying the religious and cultural heritage of one of the centers of Islamic learning in Africa. In the Bosnian War, destroyed many monuments that had been during the Ottoman period in Bosnia. In Somalia, they have of these shrines of Sufi. Sufi. You see this violence is directed again not only against Westerners, but also against the majority of Muslims, and violence is used as a means against of attaining the root of see the idea um, within the city. So the solution, if you ask me, because they have different tourism ideological is been the Muslims, non-Muslims, only support with help Christians who can support the mainstream Muslims themselves, who need to deal with what is basically an attack on culture and on the on of their religion. Let me think that's the what general most of the term is image idea. This is a modern ideology. Even claim that they go back to the practice of and the that is to say that the practice during the common century of Islam. In reality, there are quite based on Western total developed in the century and of the as to go early, a very early of the conception that they have quite as the that you to disseminate their idea. But Arab world in particular, Arab world has been, of course, the terrorism. Arab world, the governments that excuse me that power independence from the colonial power. They generally had Marxist ideologies. So they answer himself was a good example of but the prevailing ideology among the political in the Arab and what happened is that failed to stop political and development for the Arab country. The failure of this particular political and economic open religious radicalism when models fail, then adherents of radical Islamism could argue like the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is Islam. You're quite that the failure of political Islam political development. What happened is very this is where Turkey, could actually have Arab this movement. but of all and authoritarian in Ethiopia and Libya, the people against the were not doing but they were not trying to establish looking for democracy, looking for government of, if you look at the Muslim Brotherhood of Egypt, you don't see a lot on the emphasis popular this uh, in the it is and it is successful bringing a of a government to countries that have never experienced democracy, always the authority or another. They can to the then is there taking away for who argue we say the wind sails of people. There is a downside that because pollution, what has happening in Syria is pollution. There is always a um, uh, uh, instrumentalize radicals. The government is weak and the police and service they can do things. I think this is the explanation incident in what I know Libyan people from that preventing in the city. There is actually support for countries like like France, but this did not prevent the constitutional person. This did not uh, big. The government was not able to maintain and this type. So in this period of transition, to stable uh, group, violent radicals, take advantage of it and to cause problems. Some Turkey can do, the case of Syria. But I think that Turkey can play a role about about people and, and Turkey itself. I mean, Turkey has long Turkey that of course that welcome that had been expelled from Spain by that that meant at the time when the norm Europe was persecution, where it maintained of the religions, a very strong tolerance, that I think can be very helpful. The, the you know, out the book that show that the majority of Muslims back then exhibit high levels of tolerance for individual people from other religions. That had been seen in at the time, most important about Turkey and Turkey present other that we can sample because it has been made scholars at least you need to have a religious in they're not democracy, but Turkey and also like Indonesia and Malaysia, for example, have shown that yes, it is it's done to have a complete in the case of Turkey, at the same time have democratic. I think that the most important thing that Turkey with democratic develop in the Middle East people. You can have a government religious root, and it's governed by Muslims, at the same time not in any way compatible democratic legal system. So I think that the example of Turkey very important in other Middle East undergoing this process of able to their also to have a democratic policy. Playing very important role, but now it's unique in that it's Muslim majority, but it's part of NATO. It's
a lot of
majority in NATO, and but it's East.
Yeah.
It's also part of I mean has Central Asia for
right.
Historical reasons. In many Central Asian countries that have affinities with Turkish.
Right.
Long-standing relations with Russia, with the Balkans. It's most makes it very important states sort of in perspective of the United States. 18th century, say around the United States at the time had a very issue of people Irish and we had millions of Irish, Italians, and other Catholic states in the 19th century, and at the time, argued Catholic democracy, and they said, "Look at Europe, look, not democratic." So, argument was made Catholicism in the 19th century. Of course, today there is credibility, and Catholic countries in Europe are democratic. So that is made that the particular religion is not a democratic system, that it has to do really with and of people, to accept the values of of democracy, and your tolerance. Yes, tolerance is it's one of the values that we important. I mentioned earlier that I want to use with regard to Muslims, say moderate Muslims, because it implies that maybe less support of the religion. But the think of mainstream Islam against opposed to this or that's been under attack by these the radical sectors has certain characteristics, and one of the characteristics in which that I would ascribe to the type of Islam that should be is respect for the rights of and religious minorities. Turkey. So that's whereas we see those rights suppressed in where radical are in power, in places like Iran, in other countries as well. Women not given that they have in countries like Turkey, and when apostasy is a crime. One that we find in analyzing these issues, especially with regard to the treatment of women, is sometimes we confuse religion with culture. And as you said, Islam is perfectly compatible. Respect for the rights of women and just minorities, but sometimes are not hospitable this type of equality. And I think the problem we see in in some places is that people confuse kind of which might not be a very good cultural norm perspective with a religious obligation. Think that that depriving women of certain rights is a religious obligation. It's really some culture.
Bigotry, actually.
Yes, yes. So that's sometimes people their own culture with their religion.
Yeah.
Very judgment when, especially in certain countries, they confuse their own culture, but they think that their culture is upon other people. We see one good that is a case of Bosnia, because I spent time in Bosnia during the Bosnian War, and my State Department position trying to the Bosnian nation, and what we found that individuals who were Saudis, but beautiful, and they would get rid of Korea because acceptable, of course. They were conveying their own cultural ideas. Because things were in Saudi Arabia doesn't mean that they have. To the point that I made before, that to the extent sources of terrorism and interaction of the it's not something that because we have no authority, if I were to comment, or have a debate, to say a radical, well, you're missing brand. What authority have we done by our, again, the radicals, they have their own interpretations of in the Quran, their position. from an analytical, the difference between the way in mainstream majority of Muslims interpret the Quran and the way in which do it is that all of the Quran and all of the tradition, radicals would look at few verses that support their position and they would ignore. So you have a bias in people who may not know why their interpretation is wrong. Scholars, need the radical interpretation. This is why this boils down to conflict. Okay. In other words, who's the ideology of the radicals? Ideology, not the ideology, because it's not an ideology, but language Islam tradition interpreted for hundreds of years.